And we're live. All right. Hey, today we're going to be talking about the ins and outs, the how to build a house with this new mystery building material. Hey, it's AirCrete, but is it easy? Is it good? Is it bad? Can you actually use this material for your next project, whether you're going to build a dog house, whether you're going to build maybe just a storage building, or maybe you just want to build you a nice Airbnb and have unlimited money coming in all the time. So we're going to be talking about the ins and out on this. So, hey, we're continuing our series on building in Costa Rica. And today, this is a whole different product. Last week we talked about AirCrete and I gave you examples and things like that you can look at. Well, today we're going to get into the how-tos, how hard is it? How easy is it? And we'll kind of go step by step and give you an idea on what does that look like. So, hey, before we get started, welcome back to the Unbridled Living in Costa Rica podcast, where we're going to just have a good time sharing all the different things about life in Costa Rica. Hey, this is the only channel not trying to con you into coming to Costa Rica. We don't have anything to sell you. We're just sharing from my perspective about life in Costa Rica. And it can be challenging, but I tell you what, it can be the most rewarding thing in the world. That is, if you are prepared and you learn what you need to do. And that's the whole reason we have a live every Sunday at 4 p.m. Costa Rican time. So, hey, before we get started, who is this bald guy? Well, I'm Alan. And I've been in Costa Rica since November 2013, traveled all over Costa Rica, lived in over 25 different places and locations, just trying to find my perfect slice of paradise. And so I found mine and having a blast in Costa Rica. So, hey, want to welcome everybody here. I'm glad you're here. Give me a big shout out. And I'd love to find out where you're watching from. And look, be engaging. If you have questions, put them in the chat box, and I'm going to be sure to try to answer your questions before the live is over. So if you're ready, say, I'm ready. We're going to jump into it. So let me show you, because I have a slide here, or I've got some images and some stuff to kind of show you. So, hey, we are talking about how to do AirCrete. Now, AirCrete really is new. But AirCrete's been around for over 40 years, okay? But it's normally built in big industrial buildings, okay? Well, we're going to be, there's a new outfit that has discovered the secret on how you and I can use AirCrete, okay, to build houses, okay? So anyway, let's take a look at that. So it's a great alternative. And in my opinion, building with AirCrete is probably, in my opinion, it's the best building material you can use for Costa Rica. And that's because of the climate of Costa Rica. So regardless of whether you're at the beach, and you got all the salt air and you got, that soil and the sand, or if you're living up in the mountains like I am, where, hey, I got a hoodie on, man. It gets cold up here. Well, the R value inside AirCrete is tremendous, okay? And so you can be really cozy and comfortable, okay? So, and, here's what I really like about our AirCrete is that it's very, very forgiving. So, if you're building with wood or metal, or if you're building with regular cinder blocks, it's not very forgiving, okay? And it's kind of hard to make any patchwork or make any corrections. But with AirCrete, you're going to find as I go through this presentation of how easy it is to build with AirCrete. And not that you don't have to be the one building it. You can hire someone to build it, And hey, if you're like, well, Alan, would you hire it? Would you build it? I might. If there's enough interest, I'll put together a team, train them, and start building these AirCrete buildings. I'm going to build some on my property here, and I hope to start as soon as possible. But anyway, I'm going to show you the ins and outs. So let's take a look. So the question is, well, how do you build? And I want to mention that, a lot of the AirCrete buildings are kind of a dome style, but it doesn't have to be. You really can build any shape or design you want. And if you take a look here, look, there's a lot of domes. They've got arch designs. And look, if you want a traditional square, rectangle, you can build that as well. You have to think outside the box and how you can integrate AirCrete with metal or wood framing, but you can, okay? And so I want to let you know that just because you don't see the traditional square type house, you can. Most of the industrial buildings are square buildings, huge square buildings that they build out of AirCrete. Okay, so just want to give you an idea, and you're going to see a lot of these images that, hey, all these things I have borrowed from a website that I'll share with you as we go along. Okay, so and here's what's nifty. Okay, so you can go to the website that's called Dome Gaia. Okay, Dome Gaia. I think it's domegaia.com. But anyway, at that place, you can buy all of your tools. You can download a free ebook. You can, there's online academy where you can buy courses. There's workshops that you can attend. Matter of fact, I think they're right now or pretty soon, they're going to be building an AirCrete place in around La Fortuna. Okay. So now let me pause here. I'm not suggesting you go buy anything. Okay. Go check it out if you're interested. I don't get a commission. I'm not promoting them. I'm just sharing where, as I started researching alternate materials, I started finding out where is this coming from, and it's all coming from this website, and they give you the whole history of where AirCrete came from and how his father actually started figuring out how to use AirCrete on a small scale instead of this humongous scale. But hey, all you got to do is go to Google and look. Just if you're taking notes, type this in: Dome Gaia University, okay, or Dome Gaia. I don't know how they're pronouncing it, but anyway, you can go there and you can get all the information you want. And here's what's really neat: doesn't cost you a fortune. About $2,000, you'll have all the basic equipment and the course to learn everything you need to know about AirCrete. Now look, I bought all of the equipment and I bought the course, and I've been going through it, and it's really pretty amazing. Okay, so I'm not suggesting you buy anything. I'm not promoting anything. I don't get a commission. But if you're interested, that's why I'm not giving you a link. If you're interested, hey, just Google Dome Gaia or Dome Gaia and you'll find it. Okay, so all right, so what do I need to actually build an AirCrete home? What are the ingredients? Okay, well, that's pretty simple. Here's your ingredients. You need Portland cement. So regular raw cement. We're not talking about Quickcrete, okay? This is regular raw cement. You need a foaming agent because which is bubbles, okay? And you need lots of water, okay? So if you have these three items right here, these are the ingredients for making AirCrete. Now, Portland cement. We know that if you buy Portland cement and you mix a little bit of sand, you mix a little bit of sand with a little bit of Portland cement, then you get cement, okay? And that's how you can pour a slab or whatever you want, okay? But in this scenario, you're not using any rocks, you're not using any sand, you're taking Portland cement and you're mixing it with this foaming agent and water. And what happens is you end up turning one sack of Portland cement into the equivalent of about 7 sacks, if I remember right. So you end up making a ton of concrete. But what happens is the concrete's a lot lighter. It's way better insulated with the R value because it's got millions and millions of tiny bubbles inside there, okay? And so let's get into it. So probably the worst part about this whole thing is that, hey, when you buy Portland cement, it's almost always a 94-pound bag. Man, that can be heavy, okay? And I don't know if you can buy Portland cement in a half bag, you know, if they make smaller bags, but I know, especially in Costa Rica, all the Portland cement I see is 94 pounds. Now, take note right here. Write this down, okay? If you're interested in AirCrete, okay, then they're advising that type of AirCrete you use is a type 1/2. Is it a half? But they got type 2, they got type 4, they got type 3. They got different variations of Portland cement. So you don't want to use just any Portland cement. And so Dome Gaia are suggesting that the best type of Portland cement is the 1/2, okay? And so just giving you that information. And when they first started making these AirCrete blocks, well, they were making it with dishwashing liquid, but you had to find the right dishwashing liquid, and it wouldn't be consistent because you're putting in the right stuff. And so they just came out with this stuff, which is really good. I think they call it AirCrete. Anyway, this foaming agent, so you want something that's going to be consistent so you have the same type block throughout your build. So these are the ingredients, really simple. Portland cement that you can buy. Excuse me. You can buy Portland cement in Costa Rica. Now, can you get the 1/2? I don't know. They've got all, Costa Rica buys junk, okay? They get the cheapest junk they can from Costa Rica, but I'm sure if you look around, you could probably find it. I just haven't looked to see if I can get the 1/2. But hey, that's for another time, and I'm gonna be looking at that, okay? So those are the ingredients, 3 things. All you need is Portland cement, foaming agent, and some water, okay? And some elbow grease. Now, so anyway, get you a giant trash can or get you a 55-gallon drum and then just cut the top out of it, right? So what you want to do is just kind of, now obviously you want to follow the course and follow what you need. But hey, I would start off with a little bit of water in the bottom. I'd pour my pour my Portland cement in there, start mixing it up. But it's not like just mixing up ReadyCrete or, instant cement, okay? You want to have the right tools. So let's go into a little bit more information with that, okay? So anyway, here's some of the tools that you can buy from that website. So you need a mixer, not just any mixer. You're like, I'll just mix it with a hoe. Well, you don't want to, because this mixer here, not only is it going to be mixing your cement, but it's going to be putting in your bubbles, okay? So it's going to infuse your bubbles into your Portland cement. And what it does is it makes that Portland cement expand very rapidly, and it ends up turning 1 bag of Portland cement into about 7, okay? And it multiplies it, okay? And that's what makes it really economical, okay? So you need this mixer here, and you also need a good air compressor. Now, you don't need some giant industrial air compressor, but you definitely don't want some little bitty air compressor. You need a good medium-sized air compressor that's going to give you consistent airflow, because you're going to end up hooking this air compressor up to what they call their dragon foam generator, okay? And look, you can search YouTube, people trying to make their own stuff and everything. Why make it? It's cheap enough just to buy the equipment. So anyway, this foam generator uses that foaming agent and makes the right consistency of bubbles and all of that. So your air compressor is connected to that. Now, look, once you've got that connected, as you can see right here, this guy is mixing his stuff in a big trash can, and that's 1 full sack right there. And I can't remember the mix, but how many gallons of water that is. But anyway, it's a lot of water, a lot of bubbles, and all that. And then they take it over to their forms, and they pour it all into the forms, okay? So it's really nifty, and some great questions here. So I'm going to make sure to highlight some of these questions, because I want to be sure to answer them after a while. So put your questions in there as we're going through there, and I'll pause from time to time to answer some of these questions and hopefully give you the answer if I know it. But anyway, you mix it up, and it's really not that difficult to mix it all up, and then pouring it in there. So this part's going to be labor intensive, because, hey, once you've mixed a 94-pound bag of Portland cement with all that water, it is going to be quite heavy. And so this is a 2-man job for sure, okay? Because you're going to need strength to pour it into your forms. Now, these forms here were bought from the website, but you can build your own forms. But we'll get into that. So let's take a look. These are some of the forms, and I didn't actually buy these forms because they couldn't ship the forms. The forms are too big. They're over 4 foot long, and so they couldn't ship the forms to me. So I'm going to build my own forms, and eventually I'll probably do a video on that. But you can pour that whole trash can full of AirCrete liquid into these forms, let it sit for less than 24 hours, and then the next day these forms easily come apart, and then you can as you can see, you can start stacking your blocks, right? And you stack your blocks and you let them cure. Now they cure really, really fast, okay? So the deal here is, if you're planning, you can have more than just 1 set of forms, or you can buy 1 set of forms and then every day just pour AirCrete blocks, okay? Now for me, I'm going to build probably 2 or 3 different forms. And what's really nifty about these, if you happen to be in the United States, is that you can change up the size. So If you want them to be longer, if you want them to be smaller, just don't put in as many dividers, and that's really neat, okay? But if you want them all to be the same size, you can do that. So I'm gonna build forms, and I'm gonna pour some, and a lot of mine are gonna be 2 to 3 feet long, okay? And then depending on how much R value or insulation value you want on your house, then the thinner it is, it's not going to be as insulated. The thicker it is, it's going to be more insulated. And so then you can pull out some of these slots and make it thicker. So it's totally up to you, and you do the research, but it's really a great course that teaches you all about this. So anyway, once you mix it, you pour it into your forms, and then you let it cure. One day you dump it out. And so I'm just going to start pouring every day. And when I get ready for the job, I'm going to pour a bunch of blocks. And once I got 1,000 blocks or however many blocks I need to build the project that I'm working on, then I'll get the foundation ready. So just start pouring blocks, stacking them up, pouring blocks, stacking them up. Now, once you've got enough blocks, well, it's time to prepare your foundation. Now, you could actually prepare your foundation before you do the blocks, and in that way your foundation is cured. But hey, or do it simultaneously. Regardless, you want your foundation ready. Now, take a look at this one up here. This is one that's completely done, and it's obviously for a round dome style AirCrete building, okay? So take a look at the one at the bottom. You can see where they dug the footings, and in this particular one, it looks like their footings are really deep. Hey, Alan, how deep, how wide should my footings be? A lot of that is going to depend on where you live. If you live in an area where it's really cold, well, you need to make sure that your footings go below the frost line, okay? If you live in a place where it doesn't freeze hardly, it doesn't need to be that deep, but it still needs to be deep enough that it has the strength to hold the weight. And so your thick cement needs to be around the perimeter edge, right? Anywhere where there's actually weight-bearing walls. And so that's why you can see down here. And really, if you wanted dirt floors, you could have dirt floors, and you could only pour cement on the outside perimeter. So let's say that if you was going to be building a dome for a chicken coop, I don't know why you do that, because that'd be really fancy chicken coop, but you could have dirt floors, and it would be that much less cement. Or you could come in later and you could pour just the perimeter, and you could pour a really thin, 2-inch thick floor. I wouldn't. If you're going to do a floor, you want at least 3 inches. Me, I prefer 4, because as you're moving stuff around, you don't want your slab to crack. But totally up to you. It's really good working with AirCrete because it is very forgiving. Okay. All right. So let's say that you get your slab done. Uh-oh, it jumped on me. Hang on. My slide jumped. I don't know why it does that sometimes. All right, so you got your slab done. Well, then once your slab is done, you want to actually start, you want to get out your metal bender. Now, your metal bender, I got this tool. It's not all that expensive, but what happens is you run your metal through there, and it bends your metal just enough so that if you're wanting an arch, it bends it at the right curve for the arch. If you're building a dome, then it bends it, you adjust it so that you have the right angle and the right curve for your dome. So your metal bender right here is what you're going to mold your metal, and then you're going to put wood braces in between it. Once your wood braces in between it, then you're going to cover the sides with, probably some 1/4-inch plywood, okay? So I'm going to kind of just lay out the steps for you to show you how easy it is to do this, right? So you got your plywood, and it's on the curves right here, and this is for an arch design. So this is one side of the arch, okay? And then after you get that done, well, you put your two sides together. So if you take a look, they're putting their sides together, and they're bracing it, okay? Now, once they got the sides together and bracing it, then this image is real important. Take note of this, okay? Because I had a couple of questions after the last live about, do they use rebarb? Because the AirCrete blocks are solid. And when you build in Costa Rica with cinder blocks, well, it's loaded with rebarb. Sometimes they fill the center of the cement blocks with cement, but that rebarb is what holds everything together. There is no rebar in AirCrete. So what holds it together? Here's the secret, okay? You see right here along the side, this is called a fiberglass mesh cloth. So they're putting up the outside, and this is just a temporary support system where you can stack your blocks along the outside, okay? And what they actually did was they saran wrapped it. They covered it with saran wrap, and then they took and they put some stucco on it. They put some fiberglass mesh, put some more stucco on it, and then they're going to start putting the blocks on there, okay? So let me go to this next image right here. And if you can see right here, they've got it all put together. So it's just these two pieces, which is really simple. Takes no time to build. And then, of course, they're supporting it for the weight of the blocks, and they saran wrap the whole thing, okay? And once they saran wrap the whole thing, they're going to put their first coat of stucco. They're going to put some fiberglass. So you got your stucco, some fiberglass, which is holding that stucco, some more stucco, and then they're going to start putting blocks up there with mortar, okay? So let's take a quick look. And you can see where they got all of their blocks stacked up right here. And they may not have them all done. They may be deciding to make some as they go along, okay? So as you come down here, they've got their structure up, and you can see that they're starting to stack all their blocks up against this temporary wooden structure. And that temporary wooden structure is just really giving it the form, and it's just there for temporarily because it's going to be removed, okay? So take a look at that, and then I'm gonna point out something here in this next image, okay? So I want you to notice right here. Notice the different size blocks and the support system that they created so that as they can't reach anymore, they can stand up here and keep putting blocks all the way up. But I want you to notice, look at the blocks. Like this block right here looks like it might be 2 foot, maybe 3 foot, 2.5 foot, 3 foot long. The next block might be a tiny one. But as you can see right up here, they can, wherever they need plumbing, wherever they need electrical, they can run that. So if you know where you're going to have your outlets, and so like down here at the bottom, they've run some outlets along the base. Well, guess what? They went ahead and put their piping in there, and then they just cut out a little path, in the block and cover it up. So it's partially covered up. And so all of your piping, your electrical, your plumbing is all inside. And I'll show you a little bit more detail as we get down here, okay? So obviously, if you make longer blocks, then your building will go up a lot quicker. And that's something that can easily be done with an arch design. But if you're going to be making a round dome design, while there's some places you can make them longer, for the most part, a rounded dome, well, each of those blocks need to be the same size because you're making a circle, and it would make no sense that you go, oh, let's put this 2 foot block here. No, it doesn't work like that. For a circle, they all have to be the same size. And let me down here, and it just kind of give you an idea. But think outside the box. You can really do unlimited designs with AirCrete because you can mold this stuff to any size you want. Okay, so think outside the box, and you can see how they've created a support system on each side so that they can stand up here and put all of their blocks up. And so, and you can see right here, they've got several guys working, and so they got guys handing mortar and handing blocks to the people that's up on the on the racks so that they can keep working. See, and so it really comes together pretty quick. And this entire structure, I think, if I remember correctly, they put it up in 3 weeks. Now they did have a pretty good crew there, okay. But hey, think about putting up a little Airbnb. Think about how quickly you can have an Airbnb ready to start taking in clients and pumping out money for you in 3 weeks. That's pretty cool. So if you take a look right here, once they have all the blocks up, so you can see they got the blocks up on both sides, right? Now that the block's up, if you notice, there's more fiberglass cloth, okay? So this mesh goes up. So here's what's interesting. They put that fiberglass cloth on there, and so here's what's happening. On the inside, they got that form like this. Well, they've wrapped it with saran wrap so that the mortar don't stick to that wood, and they put some stucco, they put fiberglass mesh, they put stucco, then they put their block on there with mortar, and then they're going to put some stucco, they're going to put some more fiberglass mesh, and they're going to put some more stucco. And so you end up with this humongous sandwiched together block that's sandwiched with fiberglass mesh on the inside, fiberglass mesh on the outside, and that fiberglass mesh is what's taking the place of rebar. Okay, and that's what's making it really strong so that it doesn't crack. Okay, and so it's really, really, really neat. And this is something that, hey, really, you and your wife, or your wife, and because you can get labor so cheap in Costa Rica, this is something you can make it a weekend project, you know, where you work on it every weekend until you get the thing built. So my thing is blinking on me. It's moving. So anyway, there's that fiberglass mesh. And then right here, once your blocks are dry, then you're going to take out your support system. And so what they did is those support systems was up on some temporary blocks. They hammer those blocks out, and then the wall kind of drops a couple of inches, and then all they got to do is carry it because it's lightweight. They just slide that support system out, okay? And once they they move it out, the deal is, well, I hope you did the job right. Otherwise, those cement blocks will come crashing down. So if you take a look, and so there's kind of an inside look, and see, so you can see here where the saran wrap was on the outside. Obviously, they sliced it, and so now the saran wrap is stuck to the stucco on that side. And so they're moving the inside support system out. And then as you scroll down, once the inside support system is out right here, they pulled all the saran wrap down, the plastic wrap. And then look, this guy's got a Sawzall. And with that Sawzall, he is cutting through this AirCrete block so that it has a nice, crisp, clean design on the outside. And then you can make it literally whatever size you want. If you decide, hey, I want to put in a window right here, you can take that Sawzall and you can cut out a window wherever you want. So that's why I say this AirCrete, it's very, very forgiving, okay? If you make a mistake, all you got to do is, let's say that you cut out a window and you're like, crap, I stuck it in the wrong place, okay? Well, you get your AirCrete blocks, stick it back in there, put you some fiberglass cloth on it, and stucco it, and the hole is now not a hole. It's very forgiving what you can do with it, and then you put it where you want to, right? So it's really, really forgiving and really easy to work with, okay? So now you got your walls up, right? Well, are the two side walls. Well, how about your back wall? Well, it's very similar. And in this case, since it's not really supporting weight, they just put up a wall that's just, you can lean the blocks up against, and then you see they're stacking their blocks. And here's this is a great example on the back where you can have 3 foot, 4 foot long blocks right there, and then cut your blocks around the side. And as you can see, it's curved, right? Real easy to measure. Cut it, put it in there, and it doesn't have to be exact because you're going to have fiberglass cloth on it. You're going to have stucco on it, and it's all going to be one solid wall once you're done. And that's what's really, really cool. And so when you're done with all of the walls, everything is solid because everything is overlapped with fiberglass cloth. Every corner, every seam, every edge, everything is covered. You know, even these edges right here, everything's covered with fiberglass cloth. And then let's take a look at the inside. So here, this is they decided on this particular arch to build a focal wall. So they added more blocks on the inside, so it's kind of more three-dimensional, okay? And as you can see here, he's building some shells, some encased shells, and then right here, he's got electrical so that he can have some sconces there or some lighting right there, okay? And this would be where the bed would go. So anyway, it's really neat what you can do with AirCrete blocks. I mean, look, if you wanted to start carving statues, well, you stack up those AirCrete blocks and carve statues out of it. You can do whatever you want to do with AirCrete blocks. It really is very cool, okay? So as you know, once you get your walls in, well, then obviously it's time to do your electrical and your plumbing. And if you take a look, this guy really has nothing more than a knife or a putty knife. And in one video, I saw them take a claw hammer and using the claw and just raking out the cement. So your question is, well, geez, is it that fragile. Well, it's not. It's good, strong, especially once it's done. But while you're in that building process, it's really easy to cut out the trench where your piping is going to go. And then you put in your outlets, you put in your piping, and all that gets pushed in. And then you're going to end up covering all of that with stucco, fiberglass mesh, and everything is covered up. Okay. And then you never see any of this stuff. So obviously you better make it right. But if you mess up, it is an easy fix. Okay. So you put in your plumbing, right? And then, of course, once you're done with your plumbing, on the inside, you're going to cover everything up with more fiberglass mesh, stucco, and it strengthens and everything out. And then, of course, you sand it all down, you smooth it all out, you put a coat of paint on it. And here, I think that's what they're doing here, but then they end up putting in the front is all glass with a great big old sliding glass door. Okay. So you can see that the process in itself is really, really fairly easy. It's labor intensive, but once you get done, look, there's the finished AirCrete house right there. Okay. So there's the finished AirCrete house. And then here's kind of the finished inside, after they got done, with all of the furnishings and all of that. And you can see, look, those built-in shelves right there. And you can see the lights right up here. So they had a little focal point back here. There's light switches right there, and that's where the bed's at, okay? And so here's an image where, take a look at this. In a few weeks, you got an Airbnb on your property, and it's ready to bring in income. And you can actually have, a much smaller size if you wanted to. And it could be like, if you wanted a glamping park where, hey, really the only thing they're doing in there is sleeping. But maybe there's one area where there's public toilets and showers and stuff like that. So, and instead of staying in a tent, you're staying in an AirCrete building. So really, this would be a high-end camping site. So really, there's just a ton of stuff you could do. And really, in just a few short weeks with the right crew, you could have these things put up in no time. And so the next question is, well, hey, what did it cost? Well, on the video that I watched, they said that for $12,000. I don't think that included what they did, at furnishings, I don't think. But for $12,000, they had this Airbnb ready to start taking in clients. So that kind of gives you a really quick how-to on AirCrete. And I'm going to come through here and kind of take a quick look at some of the questions there. Because, William says, well, I wonder if you can shoot it like gunite. And I don't think so. And the reason is because of all of the bubbles and stuff. And if you start shooting it, well, then it compresses everything. And you want the insulation on there. And so I don't think you can actually shoot it on like gunite. So anyway, let me scan through here. And I see a little bit of chit chat in here, but I don't see a lot of questions. But hey, welcome folks that are here. And here's a question that says, hey, Alan, how much for each bag of Portland cement in Costa Rica? And how many blocks can I get from each bag? Okay, so that's a really good question. If we were looking at those forms, okay, so let me back up to this, to the actual form up here. All right, so there's the form right here. So one bag of Portland cement. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 4. Looks like you can make 24 blocks with one bag of Portland cement, if I'm not incorrect. I'm almost certain I'm right on that. But hey, one bag of Portland cement, you get 24 blocks. Now in Costa Rica, I went and looked the other day at some Portland cement. Let me look at my camera real quick because I think I actually took a photo of some Portland cement with the price tag because, hey, yeah, everything is more expensive in Costa Rica. So let me just take a quick look and see if I can find it real fast. And I hope it's still on my phone here. But I think I took a shot of that. Yep, right here. Let me take a look. Or is this? All right. Yeah, Portland cement. Portland cement, this is type 2 cement, 14, it says 1388, but it says in dollars. It says dollars, but I was in Costa Rica, so it says $13. Oh, wait a minute. Where was I at? well, I was in Costa Rica. I think I was, well, it says 1388. I don't know if that's right. Okay. I wished I'd have noticed that when I took the photo. Interesting. Because I took that picture, I think, at, trying to think of the name of the hardware store, great big, huge hardware store, EPA. Okay. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. Anyway, it gives you a little bit of an idea. So one bag of Portland cement can make those 24 blocks. So, and William says, he says, with ICF construction, you're limited to 14-inch walls, okay, or maybe 14-foot walls, not sure. And this looks like it has more structural integrity. I'm really glad you showed it. And I agree. I really think that this AirCrete blocks is, if I'm going to build in Costa Rica, which I'm going to be doing some other buildings, I love what I got right here. And, with AirCrete blocks, I want my house to be up off the ground with a great view. And so with AirCrete, I wouldn't be building it off the ground. It really needs to be on the ground, okay? JR says, someone asked me if you can lease property in Costa Rica. And where he lived in another country, he leased property for 99 years and built a home, and he paid a fee every year, not a lot. So absolutely, JR, where I'm at right now, I lease this property right here. Now, me and the owner have quite a unique arrangement, and that's because of his bad health and because the locals were trying to steal his property. The locals were trying to steal his property. I made him aware of it. And so I'm really kind of here as the security. So I've got a 99-year lease on this property. And yes, McDonald's and other companies, they lease their property for 99 years in Costa Rica, and then they build McDonald's franchise or a building on it, in cases where they can't buy the property or whatever. And that way it goes back to the family that owns it at the time the 99-year lease ends, okay? So yes, if you're willing to get out and knock on doors and talk to some big farmer and he don't want to say his land, say, well, hey, okay, how about just leasing it to me for 99 years, and work out a deal with him where he gets paid every year, and then he's probably a happy camper. So really, you can do almost anything you want in Costa Rica if you're willing to think outside the box, okay? And hey, William says, hey, look, I'll come help for free just to gain the experience. Just throwing that out there. Hey, William, I might just take you up on that offer, okay? Because I was actually thinking about it. Matter of fact, that Dome Gia website, they actually have, where they're building. They'll go out and build somewhere, like they're going to be building in La Fortuna, I think, about this time or soon. But you pay a lot of money, like $3,000 just to come and work. So you get to pay to work. And they get all this free labor, okay? But I was thinking about possibly when I get ready to build one, I was actually thinking about putting it out there on my channel and saying, hey, you want to learn about all this? Hey, I'll set up a place where you can stay while you're given manual labor and learning how to do this. So that is definitely a thought. So, and ZZ asked, well, how much does that tool cost? I think that tool was around $25 or $35. It wasn't a whole lot, but all the tools that I bought. Now, I didn't buy the blocks, but I took the forms because they couldn't ship it. But these tools that I was showing you, let me come through here real quick. So there's the mixer, the foam generator, and there's a foam generator, mixer, and I bought some of that foaming agent. But anyway, and I bought the course and everything all together. I bought all of the tools and the online academy, and I spent under $2,000 for it. I want to say it's $1,500 or something like that. I think just the basic tools, with the bender, I think the bender, the mixer, and the little dragon that makes the air, I think that was around $500. The foaming agent, that's a little bit of a challenge to get. I think it's about $500, but it can build it can actually build two 16-foot domes. So if we take a look right here, see a 5-gallon jug makes over two 16-foot diameter domes. So that 5-gallon box of foaming agent or bucket of liquid foaming agent makes a lot of bubbles. So I'm going to scroll through here, take a look at some of these other questions. And JR says, hey, I'd like to come and see it also. And ZZ says, well, hey, I'd work for you. So, hey, it sounds like that's something I can most definitely think about seriously doing, because I actually want to experiment with my first one as I learn how to do it. And I actually want to, because I love having a fire pit. And so I'm actually thinking about building me a dome one out over in my rock garden. And the inside obviously is not going to be cement, because I want my fire pit to be in the middle. And then I want to have seating all the way around. And then the top needs to be kind of open, or it has, it has a cover so that smoke can go out, okay, but rain can't come in. And in that way, and then I don't want it to be solid all the way around. I want these huge arches cut out of it so that you still feel like you're outside, but covered. And so I'm hoping to do that, kind of soon. And that way I can get a feel for how to build with these blocks. So, hey, something I definitely am looking at doing. I just don't know how soon. So, hey, what other questions you have? Because we're only at 41 minutes. We got plenty of time. I went through that a lot quicker than I had expected. But anyway, here's the most important thing to think about. It is going to be labor intensive. But labor in Costa Rica, cheap, cheap, cheap. So, and when I say cheap, a laborer, the typical or the normal price for a laborer is 1,500 colones an hour. That's $3 an hour. So you can have a guy work for 8 hours and you're only out $24. So $24 a day, you can have a Tico full time all day long. Okay. So anyway, it is labor intensive, but really, if you were like tight on budget, you really could build this thing on your own, and you can take your time about it, okay? So it really is just a really neat design. I really like it. And I'm looking forward to actually building me one of these, as soon as possible. But I got other things I got to take care of. And I'm always busy on the off-grid homestead, because there's always a whole lot to do here. So anyway, now, William says, how about framing the doors and the windows? And so right here, when they got ready to put in the doors, all they did, I think they built them a wooden brace that went across the top. And you can see where this black edge goes all the way around the side. And that's some real thin wooden pieces that go across there. And so really, their brace went right across right here. And it all tied into the cement right there. And it is not, and the windows, super easy, and you can really practically do the same thing. Now in these arches, I don't see many windows, but hey, you just brace up where your windows are going to be at, and really it's for the windows, the doors where you really need a brace, but in the windows, there's really not much bracing, because whenever everything is covered with fiberglass cloth, and that fiberglass cloth is really holding everything together. And so really, you don't have a whole lot of weight coming down on your windows. I can't wait to find out more about it. Okay. But because I'm kind of thought, well, geez, I don't want my windows, I'm used to bracing my windows when I put in windows. And ZZ's like, wait until rainy season's over. Absolutely, man. It ain't no fun trying to do anything in the rainy season. So when I do get ready to build, whether I get to do it this summer or not, I don't know. A lot of it just all depends, because I'm really busy with one of my online businesses right now, and I'm really focused on that. But anyway, when I do get ready to build, it will most definitely be in the summer. Evelina says, hey, there's 16 people watching and only 6 likes. Come on, people, give Alan a break. So, hey, greatly appreciate you folks liking. And look, it only takes you 2 seconds. And hey, how hard is it just to hit that like button? And at least you show me that you appreciate all the hard work I put together to put this together for you, okay? Hey, Evelina says, hey, I watched the whole thing. Can you please elaborate a little bit about your idea with rebarb in between? Okay, now these, in most of these right here, you would never put any kind of rebarb inside it. You're using fiberglass cloth, fiberglass mesh, okay, and you're using several layers of this fiberglass mesh. That is what's going to be the rebarb for you, okay? So make sure that now, if you were building a house and you were trying to build a rectangular type house, okay, yes, you could use rebarb. However, in a regular, but anyway, with cinder blocks, you slide rebarb down the middle of it. You couldn't do that with this because these are solid blocks. But what you could do is, for every other row, you could end up laying rebarb, laying them together. So you can kind of work around that. I don't know why you would want to do that. Now, if you were building a rectangular house, maybe there's a reason why you would do that. But in reality, you just don't need regular rebarb for an AirCrete building. And so you would never use fiberglass and would use rebarb instead. No, you would always use fiberglass. You would never use rebarb instead of fiberglass. Okay. One scenario where you might tie in some rebarb is, let's say that you were on the beach, you had really sandy soil, and then you're laying your foundation. Your foundation is obviously going to be full of rebarb to keep your foundation strong, but you could also have basalt rebarb, and you'd want basalt rebarb because basalt rebarb is not going to corrode, and you could have basalt rebarb sticking up out of your foundation, and you wouldn't have it sticking up very far, but just enough to go into your first layer of blocks, okay? And then that's what's going to tie everything in, and is going to like anchor your house down to your foundation. But so you could do that, okay? And that would kind of tie your house into your foundation. Do you need it? I don't think so, unless you were in an area where, it was just, you were afraid that, you weren't on good soil, and maybe you had a lot of heavy winds, but I don't think you would ever need it. And ZZ says it was kind of like shaping a surfboard, and you're absolutely right. Because, once you build this, I mean, you've got all of this mortar on the outside and all of this stucco, and really you're shaping it, and you really can make it to whatever design you want. And Evelina says, I got the impression that in your last video, you said you would use rebarb in AirCrete walls for your own personal execution. And so if I remember right, in the last week, I was talking about how if you were going to make a rectangular type house, how you would use rebarb so that you can connect it or transition from rebarb to a metal roof. And that way you could tie in your metal roof to that type of wall. So we were talking about how you would combine AirCrete with a metal roof or a wooden roof, okay? And so that's the only time that you would use rebarb, is if your building is going to be 100% AirCrete and you're going to have a dome or an arch, you don't need rebarb. There's no reason for it, okay? And so, yes, for you that wants the rectangular type, then if you wanted to put rebarb in there just to make it a little bit stronger, not that you need it, but you could put it in there. And so every couple of layers of blocks, you could put rebarb across there, and you can even put some rebarb, every so often, and then you would cut your blocks around it. And so you'd be tying it all in with rebarb. Do you need it? No, you don't. If you wanted extra precaution just to make it stronger, yes, you could. So there's the important thing is to think outside the box when building with AirCrete. There's a whole lot that you could do with AirCrete. It's really unlimited. And like William was saying, you could put rebarb slots in the blocks, okay, to give it some horizontal integrity. So really, even when it comes down to what you could do is you could actually, whenever you're making your mold, which takes a whole lot more work, you could create the mold so that it actually has slots in there. But hey, to me, that's too much work. But like William says, you could do it if you wanted. And so Evelina says, well, if rebarb is so unnecessary, is there a different way to attach metal roof to AirCrete? No. In my opinion, because you want to attach that metal roof. So yeah, you can. So, okay, let's say that you have your AirCrete blocks that's going all the way up. Well, at the top, you're going to either have metal. So you're going to have metal going all the way across the top, and that's where your roof is going to attach to. But in some way, you want that metal attached to your block. How are you going to attach it? Well, you're going to attach it with a small piece of rebarb that's going to be going through the metal into the block, and it's welded. So it's going to be welded all the way across, and that way your metal strip is going to go all the way across, is attached to your blocks, which then you're going to put your metal roof on. So when it comes to rebarb, that's when you would, and you wouldn't have to be using a whole length of rebarb. You're going to be using short pieces of rebarb that's only going to be cemented into your top block, okay, and then tied into your metal truss that's going across the top. So I hope that answered your question. And so still thinking about moisture, what are your thoughts? So, looking at this, I don't think, now while I don't have any experience, folks, I'm not the expert. And I might have left out a step or two, but just through my research, I just shared with you what I'm learning, okay? So as far as moisture, I don't think you're going to have a problem because these blocks are solid. You shouldn't have a problem with moisture. Shouldn't have a problem with mold or mildew. And now, keep in mind, these blocks have millions of air bubbles in them, right? And like cement, you can, I forget the word again. We talked about it last week. Cement is porous, okay? And so if you have a cinder block wall and water will go right through that cinder block wall. Even if you've got it full of cement, it will go through. Now on these AirCrete blocks, you're going to put stucco on the outside. Well, if you want to make sure no water goes in there, you make sure that you buy a stucco that is watertight. That way, no water could go through it. And that way, you have no moisture coming in your house. I really like this because, like right now, my house, it's not done. Okay. It's not sealed. So I get a lot of moisture in here. So the other day, I went to my tub where I've got extra towels and blankets. I pulled out this blanket and it smelled like mildew. It smelled funky. Okay. And that's just because so much moisture comes inside the house. And so anything leather will mold up just like that. And, I don't like that. So I want to make my house airtight, and I'll do that in time. Hey, okay. You can say porous, or you can say permanation. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. That is a $5 word. It's a highly educated word for, I'm just a high-tech redneck with a third grade education. I'm doing pretty good for a third grade education, and it only took me 3 years to get out of the third grade. All right. So, hey, here we are getting close to the end of the hour. Tell me, folks, did you, I think we're summing up the whole building series. Give me your feedback. Let me know. How have you enjoyed this building series that we have done about building in Costa Rica? We've talked about concrete, metal, wood, and now we're talking about AirCrete. Hey, give me some feedback. Let me know, how did you enjoy this building series? Because I've enjoyed doing it. It's been a lot of work. And really, sometimes I beat myself up. I'm like, Alan, you do all this for free, and people won't even hit the like button. Why are you putting so much work into it? I guess because I'm stupid. I have no idea. So Evelina says that in Europe, they say in permanentizing bricks on the outside more prone to decay because they need to breathe and evaporate the water they absorb. And I've heard a little bit about that, Evelina, because you want your blocks to breathe. And so I don't know enough about that information to really put my 2 cents in on that. And I'm not sure why you want it to breathe, other than, like you're saying, hey, if it breathes, well, then the water will evaporate. But I don't know. And so Evelina's saying, I'm saying people like to paint bricks with waterproof paint on the outside, so, and then it's not breathable anymore. And so maybe that's not a good thing. Oh, I love the way JR is thinking. Since it took me 3 years to get out of the 3rd grade, I really got a 9th grade diploma. Woohoo! I didn't think about that, JR. You sound like a smart guy. I bet you made it at least to the 10th grade. All right. Woo! I tell you, man, I love my fans. So anyway, folks, hey, I hope you have enjoyed the live today. I know I enjoyed it. Can't wait till next week. Next week, we're going to be comparing. Hey, where are some of the best places to live in Costa Rica? Hey, in my opinion, San Isidro is the greatest. San Isidro del General in the Punta Arenas area is the Punta Arenas. I say Punta Arenas, not Punta Arenas. Anyway, San Isidro del General in the middle of Costa Rica is the best place. But we're going to be comparing Uvita, Playa Hermosa, Jaco, San Jose, a couple of other places. So, hey, we'll have a good Q&A next week as we talk about some of the pros and cons of some of these hot spots, why a lot of people go to these hot spots, and within a year or two, they're selling. And we'll talk about all that. And William brings up a good point. Airflow prevents mold and moisture. Seal it, you would need a dehydration system. So that really is a good point. And so Evelina is saying, hey, it'd probably be a good idea to waterproof the bricks on the inside, but not the outside. That way it can still breathe. I like that thinking. Or vice versa. Waterproof it on the outside so water doesn't go in, but let it breathe on the inside. That might be better, but I'm not sure. I'm not the pro on that. And I agree with ZZ. A lot of people just can't chill out. Yay, chill, man. I like to chill. Anyway, folks, yeah, when you're on YouTube, you got to have some thick skin. People are so judgmental these days, you can't say anything without them getting offended. So if you're easily offended, you probably don't want to be on this channel, because I like to joke, I like to tease, I like to play. And since it's my channel, I make the rules. Of course, I don't intentionally try to offend people. But, hey, sometimes personalities, they rub like sandpaper. Evelina says, do Ticos ever waterproof their stuff? I know Mexicans are good at brickwork. Well, Ticos, in my opinion, don't waterproof nothing. Matter of fact, everything they build, I'm not saying they do a terrible job, but you have to understand the Tico mentality. They build for it to be functional, okay? They don't build for it to be pretty, okay? If they got to put in a plumbing, well, that plumbing line might be exposed, the electrical line be exposed. It's like, hey, we don't need a toilet seat, so we didn't buy one. Just sit on the bowl. It's functional. It still works. So Ticos, they're not going the extra mile for the majority of them. Obviously, not everybody's that way. You might have a Tico that is just really extremely anal like I am and tries to do everything to perfection. I haven't found that one yet, but it's possible, right? But most cases, Ticos, they're going to do the bare minimum, because the deal is it's functional. As long as it functions, it don't matter what it looks like. So I have seen Ticos, no lie, I have seen Ticos erect a brand new house, go down the street and put used tin, tear down tin off of an old barn and put used tin that's got holes in it on a brand new house. Why? Because they didn't have to buy it. It's functional. They just put some caulk in the holes, okay? So it's important to know. It's just factual. The Irish and the Italians used to be good at it. I don't know a whole lot about brick making, but hey, I'm learning a whole lot about AirCrete making. Now, Evelina says, well, I mean higher end Ticos. Now, the only place that I have found any higher end Ticos, and that's over in the San Jose metropolitan area. We're going to be talking about that next week. You know, when you go to the San Jose metropolitan area, it's nothing like the rest of Costa Rica. Completely different. Matter of fact, the Ticos over in the San Jose metropolitan area, they hate me because, you know, I talk about the real Costa Rica, and they're like, they're not real Costa Rica. We're real Costa Rica. So there's this big battle. And of course, when I talk about how different it is down here, they're like, no, it's not. Well, Ticos in the San Jose area, they think all of Costa Rica is like the San Jose area, but it's not. Ticos that's in the remote area, they think everything's like that, but it's not. Most Ticos don't travel, so they don't know what Costa Rica really is like. Hey, and I agree with Zizi. The kitchen's the most important room in the house. That's why I got a really nice kitchen. You know, I like my kitchen because I like to eat. Now, I like to eat healthy, but whenever I eat, I like to cook, and I like to cook a lot. And I love, you know, we eat 3 meals a day, maybe more. Well, your kitchen ought to be equipped with everything you need. And Evelina says, yeah, let's break down how more squared away folks waterproof stuff for that environment. I'm curious. And Evelina, that would take a lot of effort for me to go to San Jose and question all those people. That's probably not something I'm ever going to do. You know, I offer all this stuff on my channel for free, and that would be a lot of work. And I can't even get folks to hit the like button. You know what I mean? So next week we'll be discussing, you know, the different, you know, where's, you know, is it better to live in San Jose, Uvita, Playa Hermosa, Jaco, different things like that. So hey, and Travel Tells and More agrees with me. Says, yeah, it's true. I know someone that reused old tin for their room and used duct tape for the hose. It does happen. All right, folks. Hey, we are over our hour. It's time for me to take a chill, you know, kick back, relax, maybe drink some more of my clear beer. What is it called? Oh, this is my crystal beer. Wait, I know some of y'all are asking, who were you talking to? Maybe you'll find out next week who I was talking to. See you later, folks.